a 30-minute session, and we've got so much to cover. And it's a loaded question, but given it's snowing in California, I guess I have to start with, how are you? Are you well? Is everything okay?
Well, it's much better than fire smoke, right? We're doing okay in California. We're doing the best we can, one foot in front of the other. But the thing that made my whole week is that my Giving Tuesday t-shirt arrived.
Love it.
Just in time.
Perfect timing. I'm hoping mine will come very, very shortly.
Right.
Well, listen, thank you everybody for joining us. Beth, thank you very much indeed. My name is Vinay Nair. I am the CEO and one of the co-founders of Lightful. A great pleasure to be doing this fireside chat. Although I've noticed this child doesn't quite look like me, so we'll just go with that. Maybe I'll just go like this and make it more of my own. Beth Kanter, as all of you will know, and we've got, I think, over 100 people who'll be joining us today, which is wonderful. Beth is a internationally renowned nonprofit trainer, author, and thought leader. And really this half an hour for all of us is to really get a chance for a Q&A, get to know how we can maximize fundraising potential on Giving Tuesday, which somehow we find ourselves in the middle of November. December the 1st is nearly upon us. So Beth, we look forward to having a session with you. Please do, as I can see some questions coming in the chat, we are recording this as well, but if you are here with us live, please do put some comments in the chat, and I'll be sure to track them to add to some of the questions I have for Beth. So Beth, you are healthy, safe and well, and doing okay, you say?
Yes, yes. As best as anyone can under these circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. There's just literally a continuous amount of things going on, although it's always nice to have good news, and it's been nice to have a series of good news in recent days and weeks, and so long may that continue through Giving Tuesday.
And think of the stories you'll tell your grandchildren. During the COVID pandemic, I had to do my work with a fireplace background in my bedroom.
Exactly. This time last year we wouldn't have believed it. So goodness knows how I feel in 20 or more years. Beth, so there might be some people here who are new to Giving Tuesday. So if you could maybe just give a flavor, this has become such a major global movement in the nonprofit charity world. In the US, where you are, the UK, where I am, but we have people dialing in from all around the world. Can you give us a little bit of context of how Giving Tuesday has come to be, how it's come to be that you're wearing that t-shirt?
Sure. Well, Giving Tuesday was initially started in 2012 by the 92nd Street Y and the United Nations Foundation, and that was Henry Timms and Aaron Sheridan, and really the idea was to have it be a response to the commercialization and the consumerism in the post-Thanksgiving season. Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and I was reading recently how that this was discussed kind of at the lunch table at the Y. So there were a number of staff, and they decided to put this together. I found out about it actually in September of 2012. I think I got a call from Henry Timms, and he goes, "I have this great idea, and I want to know what you think about it." And I immediately "Oh, I love it. I'm on. How can I help?" And the first year there was a lot of we only had not that long to get it ready, and so it was like this big experiment. It was successful, certainly great waves to improve, and over the years it's just exploded into this global movement. I mean, I remember when there were only one or two other countries that were doing it, and they did a play on the Giving Tuesday logo, and they changed the logo to the colors of the flag. And then I just looked the other day, and my God, there were pages and pages of countries. So it's just amazing to me how it's over this short time, how it's really become part of our holiday season.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful and inspirational to see how Henry and Asha and so many of the team now have taken it. But as you say, it's gotten its offshoots in terms of how people raise cause areas locally, internationally, and so on, which is wonderful. We have a question from Alan that's come in, and I think Alan represents quite a few people probably who and I quote, are overworked and understaffed right now, but really potentially haven't therefore had time to do anything, 10 days out before Giving Tuesday. So in all honesty, Beth, is it too late to start, or is there
Hell no. I'd say heck no. And I remember we used to do in the early days, maybe the first year, organizations would plan something a couple of days before. Now, this wasn't a whole elaborate, major $1 million fundraising campaign, mind you. It were some simple actions. So, so it's not too late. I would suggest if this is the first time you're dipping your toes into the Giving Tuesday waters and you haven't planned anything, maybe just mark the day with some social media content and or use it as a donor appreciation day, and use it as a learning opportunity to see what you might do next year.
Wonderful. And so, Beth, it's important to note we're focusing a little bit more on fundraising as the particular focus of this webinar. But as you said, and indeed how Giving Tuesday is framed around the world, it can also be used for not fundraising, but sort of appreciation, asks,
and engagement. Right, because we know donor stewardship, donor appreciation, donor engagement does lead to dollars.
Absolutely.
So we have to remember that I think one of the mistakes maybe that happened that early on is that people said, okay, we're going to do this big Giving Tuesday, we're going to ask for money and just ask for money relentlessly. And that's not the way to do fundraising. Just don't treat your donors like an ATM machine, as I've been saying for 10 years now. It's about, don't be transactional. Giving Tuesday can also be is about building relationships with donors for the long term.
I couldn't agree with you more. And so now I guess we have the 10 days to Giving Tuesday, but then the run from the 1st of December to the end of the year as well, which could be a potential for starting that conversation and engagement journey with supporters and donors as well.
Absolutely. And a lot of, in the UK, I imagine a lot of the audiences from the UK, you have your Christmas campaigns. And I've seen a number of organizations kind of put Giving Tuesday as the kind of launch to their Christmas campaign and tie it in with the overall theme.
Perfect. And, for those in the UK, the Big Give, which is a wonderful match funding platform who Lightful works very closely with, often uses Giving Tuesday as that kickoff point as well. So I'd encourage Alan for you to take heart and not feel like, oh my goodness, I've had so much going on in the last weeks and months that it's too late, far from it, to get going.
And it's also a smart strategy too, because, if something's being widely promoted and it's on people's minds, the holidays are on people's minds, of course, being generous, giving back, Giving Tuesday, why not piggyback on that and leverage that? I mean, that was part of the intent, that that a rising tide lifts all boats, that rather than us working individually. And I think, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, as we're in the middle of this pandemic, I think one of the things that we're going to see is more closer coordination and collaboration in the sector, especially as we contract.
Yeah, I think that it's important to, that is the elephant in the room. And so actually, can we talk a little bit about COVID and the fact that we're still very much in the middle of this pandemic in different ways for people on this webinar around the world? As nonprofits and charities are thinking about their storytelling, their impact, their asks, how would you advise them to interplay with the realities of COVID? Do they talk about it? Do they not talk about it? A little, a lot? How should they start thinking?
That's certainly a question we've been asked a lot, right? And I especially at Lightful and all the sessions that we're doing with the Bridge program, and I think it's one of the most frequent questions. And my opinion, is that we're not immune to what's happening in the outside world, and we really have to give it a nod and talk about it, especially if your organization is doing work on the front line and there's been an increase in a demand for your services. You have to talk about, needs, and you have to talk about, how it's impacting you and how, and what your resilience is. Maybe that's the story that you're telling along with the need. And I do get why some may be concerned about, maybe some of their donors have lost jobs or have fallen on hard times themselves and feeling, well, we shouldn't be asking for money. And maybe there's also a nod to that as well. So I think, what is the quote that never waste a good crisis?
Yeah, I think there's an element around being candid and authentic about how how your fundraising may have affected, for example, events that you're running or peer-to-peer, or
right, or how COVID has impacted your programs, for museums, for example.
Impacted your program, and so Giving Tuesday is a potential way to do it. Now, some people on the webinar will have been part of Giving Tuesday now on the 5th of May, Cinco de Mayo. is there anything particular for those who have maybe been doing it year on year, including earlier this year, that one-off important day, that they should bear in mind when it comes to Giving Tuesday 2020? Is there anything additional or separate, you think? Or is it a continuation of what they've been doing previously, would you say?
Well, I think the strategy probably stays the same, and maybe the tactics, but maybe it's tweaking the messaging to give a nod to what's, where we are in the world and what's happening outside our windows. It's not just snow, there's a virus lurking, and it is pretty dismal here in the US. So, I mean, I really think you can't, if you ignore it, then, it's like, that used to be called something called a tin ear.
Yep.
So, we all live in the world together. We have to recognize what's going on outside our windows and how it's impacting our ability to deliver our mission.
I think that's very inspirational for everybody here. And I guess in many ways through these last 6-9 months, we've seen how civil society has been the part of the economy and society that has responded most to, support people who are vulnerable and being affected greatly by the pandemic and the economic ramifications as well. So I think your advice is really well taken, Beth. But to then think a little bit of the nonprofits, we had some who might be new, some maybe who have done it before, getting into that flow. You wrote one of, if not the seminal books for all of us on this webinar, which is the Network Nonprofit. So what is your advice, and it's been, I think, almost 10 years, right, since it came out?
Yes, 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
How would you say, Beth, when it comes to your community and your supporters and your existing donors and so on, what is the advice to mobilize them through Giving Tuesday campaigns?
Right. I think the biggest thing to do, and you can even do this at the last minute, maybe on a smaller scale, is to leverage the network effect. And that is, your organization and your staff don't have to necessarily do all of the fundraising ask or share all the messaging. And especially now that many more people, social media has become normalized. Many people use it. Many people have developed their own networks, whether they're small and tight, of networks of friends or people in their community, or people who are interested in the work that your organization does because they're interested, is to really activate your champions and ambassadors and equip them with the messaging, because I think that'll give you the most mileage. And it doesn't cost a lot of money to do that, and it isn't that much time to do it, especially if you want to, like, if you haven't done it before, you can think about doing it on a very small scale. Just get a half a dozen champions and see, how many gifts came in and how much better your results are. It's treated as an experiment.
Fantastic. So starting small, if you haven't done it before, treating it as an experiment. And you think, Beth, not only can they be amplifying your story, but in some cases they could be also making an ask and channeling support.
Yeah, tapping into their networks. Let's see, I want to say 12 years ago, Global Giving and Network for Good launched the America's Giving Challenge. So it was the first kind of broad, like, matching contest, if you will. And the winner would receive $50,000 for the cause. And I won that campaign for the global division. And I was on a board of an all-volunteer organization called the Sharing Foundation. And we activated the entire board now that to ask their networks to support. And we had one person on our board who happened to be the CEO of a small company with a couple of hundred employees. And he sent an email out to everybody: I'm donating $10 to this cause, and I hope that you will donate too. And, and we got a good percentage of people donating just a small amount. We have a board members who were in the, older,
Yeah.
and they were just sort of getting on the internet and still mistrusted it. And one person who lived in a active senior living retirement community, she went around with her laptop and knocked on the doors of her neighbors and pulled it up, made the pitch about her work with, helping children in Cambodia, and said, here, you can donate online. You can put a credit card in. And their neighbor was saying, well, but that's not safe. Oh, no, I do it all the time here, but I don't know how to do it. Well, here, let me show you. And then actually help them do it. And another board member had a kid that was in college still, and they did a whole a dorm party
Wow.
where, where they had other people, the kids coming in and donating. So really there's a lot of leverage with and success with activating your networks. And that was the whole point of my book.
That's
One of the key messages.
I think also the key word around, and you mentioned it, your board, volunteers as well, have such potential and such a thirst often as well now. People, seeing a lot of that wall of negativity, but actually the chance to engage with causes they care about, support them, amplify them, and so on. So it feels like something that Giving Tuesday can be kind of used in a really meaningful way for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a nice way to take a break from the hospitalization counts and what, here in California, we went from red to purple level alert and, X thousands, hundreds of thousands of cases of COVID, and then like having to worry about if you're sneezing, do I have COVID? It's just so much less stressful to focus on, a really good cause and volunteering.
Yeah, for sure. And I should also give a little plug to Giving Tuesday's collateral and assets that they have that are
Oh,
available.
those are awesome.
Great.
And I've seen them over the years. I mean, it started with one little PDF
Right.
in the very beginning. It was and a couple of logos, but now, I mean, it's full. It's like the supermarket, the supermarché of Giving Tuesday collateral, and there's so many great assets there. Not only things that you can share, but tips and people's experiences. It's just a wonderful resource.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And so everybody, please do check that out. Please put any questions you have on social, on Twitter, fireside Beth, not hashtag snowing Beth, but fireside Beth, or in the Zoom chat as well. So Beth, we've talked about kind of the run up, and people will be at different stages, absolutely chance to get involved themselves and mobilize their network as well. On the day, so we get to Giving Tuesday, what is important? What should people who are listening to this really be doing to, again, if the overarching theme is, and I quote, maximize fundraising potential on Giving Tuesday, what would you say on the day?
Okay, so, a while ago, I worked with a team with the Knight Foundation, and they developed the Giving Day playbook. I think it's still available online, and it was for local communities that were running their own giving days, any giving day. And I think the day of advice is that you really want to be organized, and you want to have like a minute by minute or maybe hour by hour schedule of like your social media messaging, people monitoring the posts so they can respond, like what are you doing every hour around this campaign, and getting all your ducks in a row so that you're not scrambling on the day. Some organizations that run larger campaigns even have a war room. I know Giving Tuesday does, because they're monitoring. So I guess my number one tip around there is to be organized. And I know Teresa on your team talks about the importance of an editorial calendar, and there's so many wonderful blog posts on Lightful about that too. But get organized, get your collateral and your content organized, get your people organized well in advance of that day, so you're calm and can focus and you can enjoy it.
Yeah, you can enjoy, you can monitor, you can engage with as well, and get some inspiration, which each of us as individuals, as humans, will get a lot of strength from seeing what the sort of civil society around the world is doing at this crucial time, right?
I know over the years I've launched my own campaigns, and when I was raising a lot of money for different causes, primarily Cambodia, and I remember on these big campaign days on Giving Tuesday, I've really enjoyed the engagement. It's so much fun. It gives me so much energy to be able to connect with our donors, and to, not just the ask and not just stuff that's been scheduled, but real, like, authentic, personalized, one-on-one. Thank you. This is great. I mean, I remember one, this is from a long time ago, it was on Twitter. And I remember, doing a lot of follow-up, and somebody responded to me, I'm about to, I want to make a donation, but I don't have my credit card in my hand. And I remember, okay, all you have to do is get up from your desk, walk over, get your wallet, get your credit card, and type it in. It was somebody I knew. But lots of, and I also really like how there's a lot of creativity and a lot of energy during a campaign, and that's fun.
Yep, no, absolutely right. And I should also say as well, at Lightful, we have a Giving Tuesday checklist as well, including some of the things you should do on the day, which we'll be sure to say it's available, but we'll be sure to circulate to everybody on this as well.
Huge fan of checklists.
Again,
Right? I love checklists because then, you know, if you have that, you don't have to do too much thinking.
helpful. I mean, it's one of those things that actually can, as you say, allows you to have a bit more zen and calm going into the day and then on the day as well to make sure you're keeping track.
Right. And also it clears everything so you can really focus on that engagement,
Right.
you know, which
Absolutely.
is so important.
So on the day, Beth, and we have a question that's come in around engaging existing stakeholders, maybe supporters on social or on email, other forms of digital engagement have been taken on a journey and understanding what's happening. When it comes to making the ask and making the fundraising ask as well, it's a question that we get a lot and that I know you get a lot as well. So what would you advise nonprofits? Maybe they might be new to it. Maybe this is the first time they're dipping their toe into digital fundraising, which is really exciting and an exciting additional form of unrestricted income. How would you start guiding those nonprofits?
Sure. Well, we ask some guide in the workshops and webinars we're doing with the Bridge Group. We do have a whole module on that, and we start with not the, you know, give us money, but it's more about the why. So you have to really think about what is it that what's your organization's mission or program, what's it supposed to accomplish? If it is accomplished, what change will you see either in a stakeholder or in your community? And then that becomes the ask, because you're asking the donor to help you make that change together. So I did a lot of fundraising to raise money to send young women to college in Cambodia. So it wasn't like, give me $25 to pay for towards tuition. It was more, you know, if you help this young woman go to college, you can help lift her out of poverty, because education can lead to, you know, a better job and better pay, and make a better life for her family.
Brilliant. I think that's
as
great.
opposed to give me money.
I think that's wonderful. You know, I used to work for a great nonprofit called Acumen, and I was actually on their website a couple of nights ago, and I saw, you know, so not just on social, but on the website, they had a pop-up around a matched campaign that they have on Giving Tuesday, and it was really, really effective. And I do feel at that time, when I worked in that business development team, it was about engaging with your supporters to go on a journey together to where they have the financial means to support you delivering impact. And
Exactly.
give me money, it is very much all of what you said, Beth. And I think it's brilliant.
It's a partnership, it's a relationship, and it's really about like what change you're going to create in the world based on investing in this nonprofit's work or campaign.
Brilliant. Thank you, Beth. I really appreciate it. And I think it's sometimes another elephant in the room that people can dance around, often in the UK, I would say, as well. Maybe it's a cultural piece, but I think what we're seeing is that that's changing a little bit, and we see a lot more happening and rapid growth. So it's great to get sort of that practical advice as well on the ask. So we've had the day, we've engaged, we had our checklist, we kind of did what we could, and our communities and networks were engaged. You get to the next day and the day after. Do you need to wait a bit of time before you kind of engage with your supporters and thank them? Do you do it straight away? What would your advice be around sort of the post Giving Tuesday engagement?
Well, I always think about Gratitude Wednesday. You know, donors want to be thanked. And yeah, when they make a donation, they get this like form letter, right? An automatic email, hopefully, from your system that says thank you. But it's always nice to send something personal. And I realize if you have a lot of donors and there's smaller donors, you can't do it for everybody. But it's really nice to give some donor appreciation and donor thanks in a nice kind of personal way. And I remember seeing like on Twitter, even before the pandemic, one organization, it was their executive director, like it was a personal note that said, thank you very much. And it was a photograph of it. I'm sending a personal note to all our donors. Thank you very much. And it was a photograph of it. So there are really creative ways that you can thank your donors. And I believe that you can never say thank you too much or too often. I know there's no like, only do it once on Wednesdays at 10 o'clock or whatever. I think you know, not every contact with a donor should be an ask for money. I'm a broken record about this. I've been a broken record about this for over a decade, but you know, it's about relationships. It's about being human. It's about, you know, really appreciating them. And I'll tell you a story about that. Towards the beginning of the pandemic, when people were not quite sure, like, should we ask or not? I know one fundraising team, they just spent some of the time working from home on the phone with their donors, just checking in. how's it going? How are you doing? And not asking them, right? And from those phone calls, they got 50% of people donated without even being asked. So how lovely is it just to like ask your donors, like you asked me at the beginning, so how are you doing?
Yeah, I think that authenticity that's so natural to nonprofits and charities is something that we undervalue probably when it comes to that ongoing engagement as well. And I think gratitude Wednesdays and gratitude every day in many ways is what you're saying. And I think those ideas around personalization and, better fundraising platforms can allow you to have, maybe integrate with your CRM, maybe they're an existing donor. Can you give that more sense of a personalized engagement at scale? I think is really, really good advice to not just once, but on an ongoing basis. So Beth, we're running nearly out of time. I guess, dollars and cents, pounds, shillings and pence are a couple of the ways that we can think about success and data and analytics. Are there other ways that you like to think about afterwards when you're reflecting back on what went well, what we can learn? Maybe that could even feed to the end of year, Christmas, end of year campaigns, or into 2021, we're going to have to keep doing more of those.
Right. I think the most important metric in my mind is donor retention. And getting people from like one-up gifts to monthly donations, subscription donations, because at least from the stats I've seen, I think the retention rates in our sector are cancerous. They are so low. I mean, and we're spending so much money and time and effort trying to acquire new donors, but we're not retaining them. So to me, if I was a CEO, I'd want to see on my like dashboard of the 3 or 4 most important metrics, one of them would definitely be retention rates. And I'd watch that, and I would want to see it going up, and I would want to make sure that all the things that we're doing to up the retention rates were working really well and really reflect. And if they weren't, it wouldn't be a failure. It wouldn't be an F, so to speak, but it would be an opportunity for improvement. Like, what are we doing around? Why isn't our retention rate high, going up versus going down or staying the same? And how can we change that?
Brilliant. I think that's so powerful for us to hear, because I guess this webinar is on maximizing the fundraising potential on Giving Tuesday, and it isn't just thinking make the ask on Giving Tuesday at all. You've made
or
that
get new donors, acquire new donors. But what's the good of
acquiring, retaining,
right? If you're acquiring and they're not, and it's a leaky bucket, it's not. Is that giving you your return on investment for your time, our limited time and resources?
I think that's brilliant. And we're seeing some match campaigns as well. Some of our partners and nonprofits that LifeWell works with are running match campaigns. So it's important in that achieving the match and unlocking that extra funding and leverage, but then thinking about that ongoing leaky bucket and sealing up as many leaks as you can.
And that match, a match doesn't have to be hundreds of millions of pounds or dollars. It could be something really small. I know I'm on the board of a number of other organizations, and Giving Tuesday, we were going to make our board donations anyway, but we say, well, let's just make this your Giving Tuesday match,
right.
And it's not huge amounts of money, but that match incentive, really inspires people to give. I think there was a question here: how can you encourage people to give who haven't given? Matching is great incentives.
Yeah,
is a great incentive for that.
I know Global Giving are doing it. Some of our partners at Jesse Paul DuPont Fund are really doing it. I mentioned the Big Give earlier as well. So I think there are real great opportunities around using that as the hook in as well. So Beth, very last question. We're a minute over, but people will want to have more. So maybe Beth, having taken us on this journey, if you had one kind of final thought for everybody who's on this to maximize their fundraising potential around Giving Tuesday, what would you want people to take away from today?
I would go back to the roots for me of Giving Tuesday. And yes, it's a day of giving and, all of that. But I also think it's a day of learning to do better, because we're not going to be perfect just that one shot. And we have to really continuously improve, which means we need to measure, we need to reflect on how we can improve it, run different experiments. So also take it not only as a day of giving, but it's sort of a day of learning and improving.
Beautiful. Well, perfect. Well, thank you, Beth, so much from California early in your morning. On behalf of everybody who's dialed in, everybody at LifeWell, but for everybody to do their best and really at this key time, thank you for all that everybody on this is doing to deliver so much impact to those who need it more than ever. So have a good morning, afternoon, or evening,
Yes.
wherever you are in the world, and we look forward to speaking soon. Thank you, Beth.
Thank you.